Okay. Welcome to Meg Galipault, and I'm going to have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your transition from urban suburban girl to being out in the sticks and starting things out there.
Yes, thank you so much. It's great to see everybody. And before I really kind of get into things, I just wanted to let you know, I had to type up a script for myself because I had like absolutely no time in the last week. So I apologize for reading off script. And hopefully I won't lapse into a monotone. And if I do, just say, Meg, stop. Um, but just a little bit about myself. I grew up in Worthington, um, and went to Ohio University, studied journalism, and made my way various places and ended up in Columbus for quite a while, about 20 years, and then moved up to Mount Vernon, which is in Knox County, not far at all from Franklin, but far enough that the freeway is, feels like a 40-minute drive to get just to I-71. But I came up here because I got a job at Kenyon, uh, serving as a managing editor of the Kenyon Review, and which is a literary journal. And then I ended up in the development office of the college because I was writing grants, and grants make more money than managing editor jobs. And so I did that for a while. I was at Dennis or at Kenyon for I think 14 years. And then I ended up over at Denison, um, which is a wonderful place as well. But I stayed in Mount Vernon, so I commuted. And last summer, I kind of semi-retired and left Denison. I've been doing freelance work ever since. I also, over the years, have been very involved in local politics, serving as county chair for a couple of terms and working on, I think, every presidential campaign since 2004, um, and also working on a lot of Senate and congressional campaigns in that time. So my perspective is from that and from living in Mount Vernon. Um, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Because I'm going to be looking at my Word document, I may not be able to see you, so feel free to interrupt me. And I'll just kind of get started. If that's okay.
Wonderful.
So, go ahead.
Oh, it's just wonderful. Thank you. I was going to say, if you've got questions, you might want to put them in the chat, and we'll try to pick them up from there in case we don't see your hand.
Yes, and hopefully, Debbie, you'll be paying attention to that.
We'll try.
Okay, great. So I wanted to start off with just a little bit of background on Knox County. Um, we have a population of just over 63,000. The biggest town is Mount Vernon with around 16,000, if I recall correctly. We have over 1,300 farms, but most of them are relatively small and they make up a small percentage of our labor market. So even though we describe ourselves as rural, it's more like a string of small towns and manufacturers with farmland in between. Um, our largest employer is Ariel Corporation. Not sure if any of you are familiar with them, but they were very much behind getting rid of solar power in Knox County, which was something that really should be investigated by a reporter at a higher level. But that's another thing. The second largest employer is our hospital. So definitely affected by what's going on in the federal government policy. I wanted to start with a thing I attended yesterday. It was with the Center for Working Class Politics. They did a Zoom talk through the Rural Urban Bridge Initiative. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with that, but they're also known as Ruby. It's a great organization. Anyways, during that talk, they were defining working class as no college degrees and low income. So, like many rural counties in Ohio, Knox has a population of 75% with no college degree and 20% low income. I don't know where the Venn diagram meets there, but suffice it to say that there's an argument to be made that these folks are reachable voters because they're motivated by economic concerns. Not all of them, of course, but enough to move the needle. And we progressives need them. I started Indivisible in March, April. Since then, we've seen growing participation in the national themed protests. Hands Off was around 300 people, and No Kings was over 500. So we almost doubled that participation. The thing is, we're not seeing working class folks in these crowds. I'm seeing a lot of professors, college administrators, retired lawyers, and healthcare professionals. And to make an impact on elections and policy, we really need a significant shift of at least 10% of the voting public in our county. And I'm guessing that this is similar to many counties that are demographically similar to Knox. I frequently, and probably to an annoyance of many, I frequently go back to the 2008 Obama election as a marker. I've worked on a bunch of different presidential elections at the county level. But what I found is that no Democrat has reached the high point of nearly 40% of the vote in Knox County like we saw in 2008. I am sure that there are other ways to analyze this, but I do believe a lot of that has to do with how we approach voters. And that's one thing we have control over. I want to make another point, and that is that Ohio has a history, at least in the last, I don't know, 15 years or the last 10 years, I would say, of relying exclusively on the metropolitan votes, the larger cities. And this is a problem. But the reason why I say that the high point for Knox being 40% is significant is if you combine the metropolitan voters or the urban voters with a much higher degree or a significant percentage of rural counties, doesn't mean they have to win them, just means they have to increase the percentage. Then we can win. That's really kind of the formula. So in 2008, just going back in time, we had a dedicated field coordinator for our county, and his name is John. He was extremely well trained by the national campaign because he had worked on the primary for Obama. He spent his time while he was with us, he was housed in a residence house and spent all of his time in the office. And he spent that time recruiting volunteers, training them, sending them out to canvass. He and his supervisor, who I believe was the regional field director, worked closely on data, making sure he hit his goals, following the strategic directions in cutting turf. We probably canvassed the entire county 10 times prior to GOTV. We talked to people. We asked them what mattered to them. We listened. We recorded data. What happened after the election? I'm going to read to you a passage that you may have read. It came out in 2022. It was an essay in, I think, the New York Times, called What Democrats Don't Understand About Rural America. So I'm going to read this short passage. It's about a nationwide pattern of neglect that goes back years. After the 2010 midterms, when the Democrats lost 63 House seats, Nancy Pelosi, then the House Minority Leader, disbanded the House Democratic Rural Working Group. Senator Harry Reid of Nevada later eliminated the Senate's Rural Outreach Group. By 2016, and this is according to Politico, the Clinton campaign had only a single staff person doing rural outreach from its headquarters in Brooklyn. The staffer was assigned to the role just weeks before the election. And in 2018, the chairman of the DNC, Tom Perez, told MSNBC, "You can't door knock in rural America." End of quote. I know that's not true. I've door knocked in rural America. It's a little scary sometimes, but it's not impossible. What happened after 2008 was the formation of the Tea Party. Everyone freaked out. The Tea Party, however, was never the majority. They are the same pesky 35% who exist today as hardcore MAGA. They managed to split the primary vote, and that gave them legislative power. But at the same time, Democrats retreated in the face of the Tea Party. This is true at the state, and I mean Ohio, and national level in terms of support for rural county elections. By 2020, it still boggles my mind. We were sharing a field coordinator with more than 50 other counties in Ohio. There was no national campaign to speak of. I think we all experienced that. And the coordinated campaign ignored rural counties. It was COVID, no doubt, but one field organizer for nearly all of rural Ohio is just unthinkable, totally not strategic. We could go back to the model of 2008, where we talked with our neighbors and listened to their concerns. We can also do one better by getting involved in the community. And that's what we're trying to do now in Knox. We're taking baby steps because, as you know, as we've all experienced, it's been a constant barrage of events since we formed, and we've barely had a moment to breathe. But we started out by committing to raise funds to help reopen the Little Pantry, which is a small standing pantry. I wish I had a picture of it, but it's a standing pantry in a resident's yard, and she's actually a neighbor of mine from a couple streets over. This little pantry, they needed about $10,000 to get it started again. They'd closed down a couple of years ago. But they realized that the coming years were going to be really, really hard for people. The little pantry is open 24 hours to anyone who needs food without any shame and without any delay. It is constantly stocked. That family goes out there and puts food in there anytime they see somebody take something out. Given that we are seeing our local pantries cut back on services, this is a huge problem in Knox. Places like the Little Pantry are becoming essential. Our involvement with the Little Pantry is giving us a connection to the community. Another thing that we've been trying to do is get involved more with our union people. So earlier this week, we marched in the, I think it's Licking, Muskegum, Knox, Coshocton Labor Council Labor Day Parade held in Newark. And it was a blast. I had a great time. Although it was the longest mile. Also, in November, we're planning to work with Ruby, which is the organization I mentioned at the beginning, working with them on a workshop in how to better listen to our rural neighbors. I am not naive about my own expertise with being rural. I grew up in Worthington. It's a different experience to grow up in Knox County. And I need to be better at how to listen and what words to use that aren't going to offend people. Because, I went to college and I have a tendency to use words that honestly a high school graduate may not know. That's not in any way demeaning to them. It's just how I talk. And I have to do a better job. So that's something, and my team members, we have a leadership team, are all in the same boat. I think we have 2 college professors, and everyone's a professional in some way, and we didn't grow up here. So our intent is to build this movement, and we believe that there's a pathway to open these doors. And I say that because they were open before, and we just got scared. And now we need to go back and start over again. The end. That's what I have to say.
That's an amazing story. Thank you so much. This is awesome. I know we'll have questions from people. So I'm just going to ask you to raise your hand or do the pretend hand thing, and I'll call on you. Mike's got something.
Yeah, Meg, Janie and I went to the town hall at
Oh,
Knox
you
County.
did.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
I was the very last question in that town hall. But it was, wow, you guys did an outstanding job. I mean,
Thank
and to have that kind of turnout and the preparation you put into it was just so evident. And by the way, anybody that wasn't there, I just want to tell you, they asked, I think this model was really good. People that had questions, submit them by a certain time that were going to go. And then if they could be there, they got to ask their question. I didn't do that. I got,
you. You went rogue.
yeah, I went rogue and asked. And well, you gave some time for others to
Yes,
ask, which was
we
really
did.
good. But then they did the research on how Troy Balderson would have answered that question. So somebody stood up and asked their question, and then they had 3 outstanding, and these guys, Jared Christian,
Yep.
okay, and also Mason
Ken.
Blankenship, and then
Yes.
Ken Harbaugh, all veterans, and you guys knocked it out of the park over and over again on that town hall. Now,
Thank you.
Um, and I want to thank you for that. And actually, Janie and I are part of a group in Perry County and Licking County, and we're we don't know whether we don't have the same kind of depth that you do or time that you put into it or experience. But we're going to have Jared Christian speak, and also Mason, even though he's not a Perry County candidate, he's not. I mean, it's a Licking County. He's 68, District 68.
Yeah.
They're going to come speak, and we considered even trying to have a town hall, but I don't know that we have the personnel that can put it together like you guys did. The last thing I'm going to say is the hardest thing I find is to do what you just described. Listen, as you can tell, listen to people and find out what their concerns are. And then probably my vocabulary, even though Janie and I are from Perry, we were in education, New Lex schools for 40 years.
Wow.
And but there was always sort of a tension because I'm from Akron.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was always kind of like, even though after 40 years, you start to blend a little, but I was always, and Janie's from Zanesville. I think Janie blended a little better than I did. But that trying not to, my viewpoint always seemed to be what I approached with first with anything. It's like, and then there were times it wasn't the same political atmosphere, thank God, that it is today. So we didn't feel the same kinds of, what do I want to say, angst and drive to try to change this. But there were times I just kind of kept my head down and knew I was different. I was there to work. And anyway, so thank you for the insights. And I'm glad you're recording this, Debbie, because we'll try to play at least Meg's portion and maybe some of the other questions for our group so they kind of hear this.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Debbie.
Oh, I just was thanking him. Go ahead.
Yes, me too. I thank you so much for that feedback. It was a lot of work. I will admit that. I did none of it. Except for promoting it and, managing Mobilize and those kinds of things. We have an outstanding team, and I think it's really important, I'm learning, to make sure that the people you're working with are a good fit once, that's one thing. But also that you are giving them a lot of agency to do what they need to do. And we had 2 people who took this project on and made it their own, and they deserve all the credit. And that was Janet and Lori. They were phenomenal. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I have heard of you. I just realized that from
Well, Julie Mulroy, also
yes.
a great friend of all of us here. And
Yes.
she mentioned recently, she and I talked about the where's Troy Balderson?
Yeah. Where is he?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie was hoping to come today, but couldn't make it, so asked if it was going to be recorded. And I said, yes, it is. So she'll be doing it too. I think somebody else might have had their hand up.
Patty?
Patty.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Meg, for all that input on the rural areas. Because like you, my kids grew up in Worthington. I'm from Worthington. And when we have relatives in the rural area, there's just like you said, there's just a different environment and way that they talk. And some of our relatives that live on farms in the other states, it's noticeable. And we don't purposely try to do any distinction, but like I appreciate that you had both of those aspects of how to relate and how to listen. My question is for when you mentioned that Obama did focus on some of the rural areas. What was that different, and why didn't like the other Democratic candidates, what do you think the difference, other than Obama is like a god, so everybody would like him. But other than that, what did Obama do that maybe that, Kamala or Clinton or whatever didn't do? I mean,
Yeah, I really think it was the investment in the national campaign that they looked, at least for Ohio. I don't know how else they dealt with, other states where there's that urban rural mix that's so strong. Um, but they saw Ohio as winnable for some reason, um, possibly because the Kerry Bush was a lot closer than people expected it to be. But they invested in the state. When they went in, they went all in. They had an infrastructure from, a state director to regional coordinators to the field staff on the ground. And I would say that most counties either had their own dedicated field person or were sharing it with maybe 2 or 3 counties. After that, even with Obama in 2012, they cut back. And then it got cut back even further with Clinton. And it was because, I think, of the Tea Party. I think people were afraid and they just weren't thinking about the actual size of that group.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Curious. That makes sense. So they couldn't go on a model of what Obama did and like the field offices. There was something they didn't like use that as any kind of reference, huh? To be
I
able to,
don't understand that part of it. And
other than the fact
especially,
that Kamala just started in June before the election. So it's probably part of that is she just didn't have the time to get it all,
yeah,
throughout.
I totally agree with that. I think that Kamala was just, I feel like her hands were tied from the get-go. And that if she had had the opportunity, maybe this is a path she would have taken. But people need to start taking it now because we are just going to lose if we don't start paying attention to rural America.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question about how this relates to Blue Ohio, and have you worked with them at all to try to beef up the rural outreach?
That's a good question. I am not familiar, honestly.
Okay, this is David Pepper's. He wasn't the only founder, but one of the co-founders, and of course he was the DNC chair at one point. But uh,
Right.
the idea is to provide a set amount of money for people in counties, in rural counties, particularly in Ohio, that wouldn't otherwise run because they don't have the material to get started. So
Yeah.
there's a base of money for them to use. And I know that Charlotte Owens used some of that money when she ran a couple times. She wasn't successful, but what she said one time when she was visiting us was that even if she thought she was going to lose, the chance to talk with the neighbors about her ideas was valuable and would grow so that it was worth the risk. So this has been going on. The Blue Ohio thing has been going on for, I don't know, I'm going to guess 4 or 5 years. So
Okay.
they're a pot of money. It's in Indiana too. I don't know how far it goes really, but they have a regular Friday um, kind of get together
Oh,
about.
good.
So I would reach out to David Pepper, but I don't know. I haven't been in touch with him for a little while, but some of us are members of Blue Ohio, which like I do a small recurring donation, monthly, and I think a number of people do. Just raise hands. Anybody else involved with Blue Ohio? Okay,
Oh,
so we have a
great.
number of us that are, but I would be interested to hear about the intersection between them and what might be done.
Well,
Yeah,
they donate directly to the candidates. So there wouldn't be
it's
money
great.
outside of that, but it's a great tool for recruiting people to run. saying that if you run for the state house, it's only for state level uh, offices, but if you run
Gotcha.
for the state house, then you'll get X amount of money, guaranteed X amount of money to help with flyers or mailers or whatever else you want to do. Gas to go around.
Right.
Yeah.
That's and I didn't really address this today, which I should have. But the challenges that we have in local elections and also the statewide state house um, elections, which is a whole, that's a big problem too. Maybe even bigger in some ways, because it's really hard to convince people to run for office locally.
Right. Thank you. I think Linda Rice had her hand up earlier. Linda, did you want to unmute and ask the whatever question you might have had?
I was just raising my hand when you were asking us to raise hands. That's
Oh, okay. Yes, because she's one of the Blue Ohio folks. We had David Pepper come and visit us some years
He's
ago
great.
when they started it.
Yeah.
And since then, of course, he's been really very visible on the national stage. But his emphasis is the state house, particularly because it gets ignored a lot. And as we know in Ohio, it's a real problem. So
Yes, we've got to change. And really the strategy overall really should be starting local, state, national. And it if you are able to have organizations that are able to focus on each of those areas, that would be ideal.
right.
You know?
And I think with us, with Indivisible, we try to sort of focus on all of them, and
Yes.
we get scattered. It's a lot, but we do have a lot of opportunities to do on whatever level that people feel comfortable. Um, what I was going to ask is about. I know that you've started an Indivisible group in Knox County, and can you tell us a little bit about how that is going and growing?
Sure. Thank you. As I said before, I am really blessed with an incredible leadership team who are so dedicated. Um, I don't know why, because I keep thinking, what am I doing right to keep them there? And I haven't come up with that. So I think it's really about, their passion for, um, feeling like they need to do something. Um, but the biggest challenge that we've had, it has been time. Um, as I'm sure anybody in Indivisible has experienced, it has just been one event or challenge in terms of, the I'm trying to think of all the different initiatives that have come up um since the inauguration, and there are so many of them. We are I feel like we have a lot of support, moral support. We have people on our Facebook page, which is private. We've been trying to really protect identity and stuff like that. Um, we have a lot of support there. It's trying to convert those individuals into more hands-on volunteering. And we're getting there. I mean, I got like 2 volunteers this week, which was a major coup. Um, I think we have 9 people who really do the hands-on stuff and probably 200 people who like to know what's going on and who really need to be absorbed.
And I think that Indivisible Central Ohio has the same challenges. Any group has the same challenges. There are really relatively few people, but of course, out of 9,000 members, you might get 150, but it's still going to be a small group. And while, that's sort of okay in a way because it's workable. But I think there are a lot of efforts to try to reach out and also to say, pick something that you're passionate about, and it can be small. I think a lot of times people are afraid that if they jump in at all, that they're going to ask to be doing more than they're comfortable doing. And I think that one of the challenges with Indivisible is to say, hey, you take a small chunk. There are lots of choices you have, and if you only take a small chunk, that's okay. That's a chunk that wasn't done before, and I
Right.
think maybe that message helps to people to grow it a little bit so you can dip your toes in. I just from personal experience, I know that I was reluctant at the beginning, and that was
Sure.
2017. I wasn't, I just retired. I wasn't ready to do anything political at all. And so I think a lot of people are in that position. They might feel like that this is a good fit for them, but they've got other agendas, they've got other responsibilities. So I think as easy as we can make it for everybody to participate in some way, and that's good. And I think that Indivisible Central Ohio has had a really good model for that. And I'm guessing that
Yes.
Knox County is doing the same thing. But it's really nice to know that no effort is going unappreciated. It's,
Yeah, I would say too that we follow a lot of what you guys do. Um, it's nearly impossible to keep up with everything because I mean, I'm astounded by how much you guys accomplish. It's it's so impressive. And you really, really should be proud. You should be a model for other um urban areas. Most definitely. And your openness to other organizations who are your neighbors, like us. You know, I've always felt welcome, and that doesn't happen everywhere. So thank you for that.
I think you're right. And it's wonderful to widen the tent. I mean, I think
Yes.
we have a vested interest in that, even if we don't, maybe aren't comfortable with it at first. Like, what do we have in common with people in other areas? We do have a lot in common with them, and we just need to find those commonalities. And it's really great, and it's really nice that you're kind of the bridge person in a lot of ways for people who have been in urban or suburban areas to understand what is actually going on in more rural areas and help us navigate that and learn to talk and listen. That's
Yeah. Yeah. There's the rural communities are very um challenging in and of themselves because the individual people are kind of withdrawn. Honestly, and I don't mean to make sweeping generalizations, but, and Mike, you're nodding your head, so maybe you understand that. But it is sometimes hard to get to know people in rural communities in a way that you build trust. Um, and so it can be very isolating for a lot of progressives. And that's why signs are so important in rural areas. I have heard so many times signs don't vote, people vote. Well, in Knox County, signs mean I belong, you know, there's a place for me here. So,
that's a really good insight because I've heard that before, that signs don't matter, but I disagree. I think they
yeah,
do. Anne.
Have you had any billboards from the Buckeye Rural Project?
we have not. I would love to, I think. I
So
don't know. Is that a
are
good
you
thing?
familiar with it? Are you familiar with that project?
I am not familiar with that project. Is it similar to what Indivisible has been doing nationally?
Yeah, it's done kind of in rural areas where they want the people in the areas to understand that if you are questioning what's going on with the government, you're not the only one. So they only, what level do they don't endorse candidates, but they'll put up a billboard, like they have certain billboards that they offer, and it's things like under Biden, X amount of money went to keep businesses afloat during COVID. It highlights Democratic successes and things that the Democrats will do for you. It doesn't say vote for Sherrod Brown, but it'll say, some message that hopefully people there. It's an issue that's of an import to people that live in that area, and it's right there as they drive up and down busy highways.
I would love, what's the name again?
It's Buckeye Rural.
Okay, rural.
We've got it in the. It's going to be in the next Thursday Action Group list that you get.
Oh, great.
Section, because we are working with them. Indivisible Central Ohio is working with them, and we've got a couple of billboards. We've got a billboard committee, and that's the group we're working with.
That's fabulous.
Facing a few, they go around a theme every year, and so they'll change little wordings, but it's going to be a real recognizable billboard, and you can sort of like adopt a billboard for your area.
Absolutely. That's
They're great.
wonderful.
They're great to work with. So it's going to be in there. It's also in Mia's newsletter.
Okay.
On Wednesday, there's a
I
blurb.
get Mia's newsletter.
Cool. Yeah, you definitely would want to hook up with them. We had
Yeah.
that some years ago, and they're really, really good. They know what they're doing. They know exactly where to put the billboards, what kind of traffic they have. They really investigate it, and they know what's available when, and it's just a great organization.
And they do them all over the state too, as I think.
Yes.
I want them.
Yeah, definitely.
Should.
I
Yes.
want them.
Very
Thank you very much for that.
Oh,
You
sure.
guys are great. You have so many resources. Thank you.
This is what's I think is so wonderful about Indivisible, because we all have something and we can, swap information and resources, and it might not be an indivisible person. It might be somebody from another group. Like we
Right.
swap information with resistors sometimes, and other progressive groups. It's a great wealth of expertise that we can tap into, which is really nice. Anybody else have? Oh, Lori, yes. Yeah, you're still muted.
I just looked it up. It's Buckeye State Rural. That's the
Thank
name of the
you.
organization. And thank you so much, Meg, for being here.
Oh, thank you. It's such an honor. It really is. And I apologize that I had to read from.
Well, we
Screw
could
up.
really tell. It didn't sound
Oh,
like we
good.
at all.
Good, 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 good.
Lori, did you have another question or anything with that? Okay. Anybody else have a question? Okay. Oh, yeah, Mike.
Just one more thing, Meg. New Lexington, Perry County is similar to Mount Vernon, but I would say in my judgment, the economic health is even not as good, because you don't have the university there too. Kenyon College, and that kind of thing. But one thing, in 2008, we were elated that we had 2 Barack Obama signs in our yard.
Ah,
Nobody harassed us, nothing. It was like, oh, okay, well then, and this is a perfect example of what you were describing.
yeah.
In 2012, we still had our 2 signs out there, but no, didn't go. So I didn't understand until you described this, why, that they backed down a little bit on connecting with the rural.
Yep. I think there was some courage lost.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And boy, we, like a lot of us, we thought we'd crossed the Rubicon, when Barack Obama got elected. Oh, we're not going back.
I know.
Sad, but
So much hope.
yeah.
Maxine, thank you, Mike. Maxine has her hand up.
Hi there. I just wanted to mention that I live in Hilliard.
Okay.
I'm from Cleveland, and I lived in Tuscarawas County for 5 years.
Oh, Tusk.
A
Yes.
long time ago. My ex's family was about as rural as you can get. And so I understand the difference. Back then, when I was living there, Democrats were who they supported. And they've since gone full circle, well, not full circle, but they've since gone to support the Republicans. But I think there is a great opportunity to educate and teach people, exactly what they're getting, and what what the Democrats could do for them. So I just wanted to make a comment like that because I am familiar with all the different types of living environments. And I worked in Marysville for a long
Oh,
time,
yeah.
which
Yeah.
is about as Republican as you could get when I was working there.
Yeah. I didn't emphasize this enough, but from yesterday's talk, and it was unfortunately backed up with a lot of stats that I missed in the first 15 minutes, because I was in another meeting. But the biggest message they were trying to convey is the economic disparity, and that this particular group of Republicans, who are not the 30% MAGA crazy, are experiencing a lot of despair because they're not getting ahead, and they need to hear economic messages. They want to be part of economic populism. But the emphasis is on the economy. What are you going to do to help me rise above?
Thank you. I think Dave has his hand up.
I think Debbie was before me.
Oh, okay. We'll go Debbie and then Dave. I'm sorry, Miss, your hand thing was blending in with the back wall. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
Thank you, Meg. The quote that sticks out to me was when you read, "You can't door knock rural America." Gosh, that just. So back in 2008, were those mostly people from the community itself who knew the people that they were approaching, or was it volunteers coming in from out?
Oh, no, it was
outside?
aside from, during GOTV, we did have a lot of volunteers come from different areas, and actually a lot of parents of Kenyan students, which was crazy, but wonderful. It was us. We were the ones, the volunteers who lived in Knox County. We were the ones who went out to, the really rural areas where you had to drive up the driveway, knock on the door, get back in your car, drive out, go to the next one. So it was far out there. And yeah, and when I went to the doors, some of them didn't believe that I was from Knox County. And I had to explain, yes, I've lived here for 10 years, at the time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, because I'm not going to lie, when you read that, I think I would be intimidated. They're protecting their property. Not only do I envision all of them to have wild dogs that'll attack me if I step foot on their property, and if I get to their door, they, might have a gun. That's my own prejudice.
No,
So,
that's everyone was afraid to do it. There's no question about that.
yeah.
I don't know a single person who was like, yay, I'm going to go knock doors.
Yeah.
Oh,
But on the nice thing about the billboards on the flip side is we are fighting a party where facts don't matter. And,
yeah.
up is down and blue is green. And even just one of the headlines this week and the Dispatch was J.D. Vance saying, well, we got to counter the Democrats ultra gerrymandering. And I'm like, who are you kidding? Like,
Yeah.
you know, there might be a few cases in a few states, but by and far it's them. So it's just really frustrating when that's what you're coming up against, when you're knocking on doors and the number one thing you're hearing against Sherrod Brown is the transgender issue, which is a non-issue that they, you know, poured so much money into, and it gets very disheartening that you're hearing the same thing over and over again. So we just got to stay strong, I guess. And I love the billboard idea.
Yeah, and also asking them what's important, because that takes the topic way off the, you know, transgender or woke or whatever. When you're asking them what matters to you, let's talk about that.
Good.
And having a suggestion in turn, or saying, I'll get back to you because I'll be knocking on your door again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. David, it's your turn. Where did you go?
I'm right here.
Oh, okay. You know, sometimes the little screens switch and then I can't find anybody. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. It's the old Zoom on Hollywood Squares.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to say, yeah, as a Knox County resident, I've been working here since 1999, and had to take a couple years.
It's Dave. I'm sorry, I didn't connect you. I know who you
Yeah,
are.
hi Meg.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was there at the I mentioned in the chat at the yeah, I've been actually a couple since I guess since roughly February, March, you know, since the what do we call them here? The
on the square.
I mean the town halls, like what do they call it? The no-show town halls, wherever, you know. There have been a couple. I mean, Fairfield County had one a bit back, and I know I think Central Ohio's had at least one. I remember, but yeah, this is one of the best. Also, it was really great seeing you know, Jared, and I think I mentioned to Meg. I actually phone banked for Ken Harbaugh back in 16 when he ran for you know, the U.S. House. Unfortunately, yeah, we're suffering in the heavily gerrymandered Ohio, and also really what I wanted to say was, yeah. So right at the election, I joined Central Ohio Indivisible because, well, that was the closest, and I've been thanking Meg every time I see her. Is like, thank you so much for forming the Knox County group, because you know, instead of me having to drive an hour for a protest, I could, you know, just 10 minutes, you know, downtown. But well, what did I think the thing I really wanted to ask was it's really regarding the national the DNC, and I'm still not getting the vibe that they really understand, you know, what's at stake right now. And actually, I appreciate Meg filling in about, you know, somewhat recent history with you know, the changes are made as far as campaigning since 2010 by the likes of Nancy Pelosi. Jesus. And the other thing I can add, sorry if I'm all over the place here. I'm a little ADHD here. Is before we lived here, we live now in Mount Vernon because I had to spend a couple of years in Pennsylvania after, well, my local plant here closed, Siemens Energy. It was a big loss for Mount Vernon.
Yes, it was.
But yeah, and yeah, between 2004 and 2019 or so, we lived like at the north end of the county, Berlin Township. And yeah, it was basically among the farms. You know, we had like 3 acres out there or something. And I would say it's, I don't know. I'm very comfortable around those people. You know what I mean? I mean, unfortunately, like as we all know, it's the whole Fox News effect. And plus, I'm still not sure if they have rural broadband out in our, rural counties. Yeah, so that's a huge one right there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But anyway, I'm sorry I'm all over the place. Okay, so back to the DNC. This is what really my question. I appreciate it. And I did join Blue Ohio, David Pepper. I'm familiar with him from a couple years back. But I'm trying to remember. So, does the DNC really have like a 50-state strategy? Do they, and also more to the point, do they realize they need to rebuild or whatever it is, strengthen? Because I think there's so many misconceptions now, but what are they doing, or if any, to try to reconnect with the rural voters and, or if anything?
That's an excellent question. And I have not yet seen any kind of demonstration of change. Maybe Anne has.
Anne has.
Oh, good.
First of all, I want to say I believe that at the national level, the Democratic Party and possibly the Republican Party focus on swing states. They are going after
Yes.
in the presidential election, they are
Yes.
going after getting the electoral college number of votes. So yeah, that's why in the Obama era we were a swing state and we had lots of national support. Now we're no longer a swing state and the national support has really dwindled. However, I have heard Kathleen Clyde speak several times. She's the new director of the Ohio Democratic Party. And they have a staff person devoted to rural Ohio. And I believe that there are plans to hire a second person. So I do believe at the state level, there would be a lot of interest in what's going on in our rural areas. And, you should contact them and see who they have working in to promote rural areas.
It seems like this gerrymandering effort too is opening a door for us as well, because in every state that's going to do it, they have to slice some of their margins out of these rural counties in order to create opportunities that didn't exist before. So our margins are going to drop from whatever 15, 16% down to 7 or 8, or in five, in Texas 5%, which is well within the range given the frustration factor that we have. So this would be a great time for the DNC and for the Ohio party to try to reinvest and recalibrate, that door knocking and that canvassing effort for sure. I mean, we could actually see a big dividend for that if we can make it happen.
I sure would love to see it. And in the absence of that, we have to have really strong county chairs who are willing to invest way more time than they should. But and I say that, and I'm really hopeful that you're right. I have seen ODP say this so many times that, yes, we've got a rural strategy and we've got this person, and then it all disappears. So I'm hopeful. I will remain hopeful.
There's
and
a
I
lot of reason to be skeptical about the Ohio Democratic Party. However, Kathleen Clyde has a long history of supporting the right things. She was at the State House. She fought against gerrymandering way back when, before I was even on board. The last job she had before she took this one was working in Columbus with a group that was to promote economic opportunities for minority people and low-income people. So her focus was really on helping the disenfranchised and marginalized people get ahead. Now, he was looking at an urban area there, but I'm going to give her a chance because when I hear her speak, she says all the right things.
I am right there with you. I've seen her work over, I don't know how many years, but she's impressive. I really like her. And I'm crossing my fingers that she will follow through.
I'm wondering whether with the rise of new individual groups and other progressive groups around the state, which we've seen happen pretty much exponentially, that some of the coordination can go on between the Democratic Party and those groups. Because I was thinking back, most of us, or many of us, were involved way back when with the Danny O'Connor attempt to unseat Troy, or to beat Troy Balderson at that time, and we nearly did it. But it was a lot of effort on the part of Indivisible, well, that was Indivisible District 12 at that time. But it was a huge effort, and it was a combined effort. It was not terribly smooth. There were different agendas between the party and a progressive group, but the nice thing about an indivisible group is you don't have to listen to the party necessarily. You can sort of do your own thing as long as you're
Yes.
so it can be a real boon to both the indivisible folks and to the party. So I'm thinking that cooperation between those progressive groups and the party in more and more areas that we're seeing, like we're seeing them show up. We're seeing, your group, and I think, Mike, did you say is there a Perry County Indivisible now?
No,
No?
there isn't.
But they're thinking,
We've talked about it
yes,
with them, and
just to get more support.
and I talked to Mia about it a little bit, and so we're still trying to find our way.
But I'm thinking that working together thing can really bring results, maybe further out in other areas than we've been concentrating in before.
Yeah.
It's always a
You know, and the other thing I want to say, up in Eastern Licking in Pataskala, Lori Van Balen, Lori and Tom have been having, like they call it the Licking County Concerned Citizens. We borrowed their name and called it Perry County Concerned Citizens. And I'm thinking if we could combine our groups in some way, because there's a lot of similarities there, and but that's still,
we have several Perry Countyans that are coming to the Pataskala meetings, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That cross work is great. That brings me to a question about if anybody is interested in hosting another screening of Surviving Ohio State. Kara Stevens, I think probably Meg, you know her. She was trying to get the word out to try to really unseat Jim Jordan, because that movie is really damning and it puts him in a very bad light. And he's featured pretty strongly in that movie. But I'm sure that the Republicans have every interest in not having that movie shown any more than they can get away with. So I went to a screening that Molly Grubb-Mora had at her home in Worthington, which was great. We had it in the evening on their patio. And so that, as Debbie Sutherland told me before I saw it, she said, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And boy, that is true. It really makes an impression. And I think that in some of these rural areas in particular, having screenings in those places, in areas that Jim Jordan represents, would really pack a wallop, because it really goes to the heart of all the stuff that we're dealing with the Epstein files. It's all related. I mean, Jim Jordan, sorry, he's a protector of pedophiles. He just is. He has a long history of this, and he's still doing it. So if that word gets out more in his district, and I think Kara is saying this screening would help, that is a way that we can kind of up the stakes and make it harder for him. So yeah, I'll put that out again. I'm putting it in the list this week for anybody who's interested in holding a screening. But of course, this would apply especially to people that live in his district. If they could hold screenings in their areas, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a question okay, Patty.
I guess this is slightly related, but not just related to the rural, but I just wanted to get it in to get anyone's opinion, that anybody that watched any of those hearings yesterday from the victims, and then what goes from that. I mean, I couldn't stop watching. I watched for like 3 hours or so. And this is what I want you guys to hear. So I want to know what happens after this petition thing, because the thrust of the Republicans in the House want to just let the Oversight Committee handle it. They don't want to have this discharge petition that Massey but this is, I didn't know I was going to get Speaker Johnson's site, because I wanted to know, well, what's happening? Are they going to be able to get the number of votes? The first sentence in Speaker Johnson's release says, President Trump is the most transparent and accessible president in the U.S. history. Unbelievable. So that was their claim that they're going to release. And you know, the amount of documents they say they will release is like 1 gigabyte or whatever it is. There's mega gigabytes. So I just didn't know yesterday I was trying to think, what would it be helpful to call our representatives or what to say? Yeah. Is that what we should do for this? Because, you know, this just, it's probably going to be forgotten, because Speaker Johnson just wants it to go to the Oversight Committee. And, you know, that's a Republican that's the chair. And they're just going to ignore it. They'll think it's for a couple of days. And plus, Trump had the stupidest statement yesterday, saying it was a Democratic hoax. And that's unbelievably disrespectful and horrible to these victims, saying those kinds of things. And that anybody that voted would be, what did he say? Something like the wording he used was like a traitor or something. I forget what the word he used.
Well, the thing is, but he's got Marjorie Taylor Greene on his case.
I know, and both.
So the question is, how many can she convert? That's really important for us to call Moreno and
okay, Moreno and okay, that's what I'll do.
Chris, and then just Janie. Go ahead, Chris. Uh-oh, she's frozen, I think. Okay, we'll come back to you, Chris. Janie.
Yes, I watched it too, Patty. I could not. I absolutely was glued. And I think anybody that listened to those people that have a heart even cannot believe that they are. I mean, it was, and the thing I really, really liked is they have their voice, and the statement, you don't release it, we'll release it. We know who you are.
Right. And well, you know, in relation, the relationship to that is that the press wanted that, right? They almost want it right away. Release the list, release the list. And then I like the attorney coming in and saying, you don't realize how many threats and death threats that these people have been receiving. We want the list to come from the Justice Department. They're the ones responsible. But so, you know, press kept really badgering them. Is Trump on the list? And, you know, we don't want the list. These poor women, this is the first time some of them have ever been get up and say those kind of things. And then they want this list right there for their news. But, you know, I understand that people want to know who is on the list. But on the other hand, these women have done, I mean, these are, what, 20 years, some of them have been experiencing hassle and threats and following and stalking. So I don't like you said, JD, I don't see any Republican who would have watched those that would actually now just want to have it go to the Oversight Committee and just release 30,000 out of megabytes. It's just so impactful. And I was wondering what everybody's going to do, you know, in response. But I think, Debbie, you said call, you know, both of our representatives and just say, we don't want it to just continue in the House Oversight. They've been having it. They had a closed hearing with some of these victims, but I don't think any of us have a real positive view that they're going to make it anything different than what Trump wants them to do.
Oh, we got to have the Massey bill. Chris had her hand up. Now she's
I got myself cut off before. Mike Johnson objected to the wording of the amendment they wanted to call the vote on, so he wanted to produce his own amendment. So he took like 3 of their paragraphs word for word after, you know, saying it was rotten, but left off anything that had to do with actual release of the papers. So I don't know whether they're going to try and, you know, put the 2 amendments against each other. that I hope people pay attention to.
Well, that's a good point, because Chris, when you make your calls, then to say you want the original Massey, you know,
Discharge position or something. Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
called
I thought it was a discharge something, not exactly a bill yet, or I don't know, but I remembered what Trump also
it
said.
is. It's a bill. It's a bill. It's a
Yeah.
Transparency Act.
Okay,
Epstein
okay,
Files Transparency Act is what it is.
okay,
And
okay.
it's, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is
And
signed
Wilbur,
it, says she will sign on to it, and Massey, it's Massey's bill. So that's
yeah,
the, you say the unchanged, no changes from Mike Johnson on it, right?
Right,
right.
right.
Thank you.
And I hope they get one more vote than they need, because I'm sorry, I don't trust Marjorie Taylor Greene
No,
to come
no.
through.
I agree, but she's been going on record, and I saw
Yeah, and
so
she
much
did,
with her.
she made a great speech, but
Mm,
she's got a long way to go to get my trust back.
right.
As his,
And I remembered the other statement from Trump when he said, if any Republican who signed on for it, this was yesterday, any Republican who signed on, it's a hostile act. I mean, that man is just so out there. For
Yeah.
any
And
Republican
they
that
sent the planes over they
I
sent
know.
fighter planes over while
Right.
they were doing the
He
press
is
conference.
so unbelievable.
Debbie's got her hand up.
And don't you guys think it all comes full circle again? I too listened to the statements, and the only name that was said out loud was this was all allowed to take place because of the money of Les Wexner. And
I
that
see that.
circles back around to Ohio State, to being on the board
Yeah.
of trustees, to settling with the wrestlers and all the
Yes.
other athletes. And they've already asked our president, whose
Carter.
name is this?
Carter.
Thank you. And he's, oh, I haven't seen anything to implicate. Well, what's going to happen? I don't know. I was very impressed by Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday. I never thought I would be so heartwarmed by what she said.
Me too.
She said she would be willing to go on the floor and herself read the names. She seems very passionate about this. So I'm hopeful, and it for the first time gave me hope that, maybe this is going to be the beginning of the end of, their.
Me too, Debbie. Me too.
I agree.
But I also I didn't sleep very well last night. I watched it late. I think Debbie or Ann or somebody texted or mentioned the link, and I'm like, oh, I need to watch this. What are they talking about? And so I watched it late and didn't sleep. I'm like, because we all know, and it's not that I didn't believe them, but when you hear their story of these 14-year-olds and the 16-year-olds to say, now you have to bring back next week another 16-year-old. And if you don't, I know your family, and, just like the Ohio State video, you understand when you hear it from their young perspective, how it was able to continue. So
that was just what I was going to say. I felt the same way when I heard the Ohio State wrestlers speak. They were very credible. I mean, years ago, and nothing's happened. And I felt the same way when I heard Bill Cosby's victims speak. And he did serve some time in prison, but not what he should have.
Well, also, the fact that Carter's brought in Gordon Gee again. Gordon Gee was there and let Strauss quietly retire at the time.
Yes.
So now you've
I
got,
saw
Carter saying this is his wingman, and you've got the Board of Trustees on the Survivor in Ohio State issue being silent. And so this is a really good opportunity, honestly, for us to just get more screenings out there. Unfortunately, because it's on HBO, there are a lot of people that aren't going to be able to watch it. So we have to make sure we help make it accessible to people. And maybe it'll be out, in other forms soon, but we don't know. Yeah, Chris?
Two quick things. I could do a viewing at my house, and I'm near Lewis Center. I'm up by Meyer and Menards, but I could probably only do about six or seven people.
No, that's going to be enough.
And the other thing I just wanted to point out is all this talk about when they were talking about bring one back next week. This is the same thing that LifeWise is doing.
Yes.
With the religion in the schools. They're telling these kids, if you bring 2 kids in next week, we're going to have a candy party for you. If you give 3 kids, we're going to do this.
Yep.
I mean, they're all Ponzi schemes. I mean, they're
Yeah.
all,
And
Yeah.
it works. Well, they know it works, and then so why reinvent the wheel when those strategies work? There are so many things to attack, but as far as rural communities and getting the word out about Jordan, that might help at least that one district to flip, and it sure would be nice to get rid of Jordan. Thank you, Chris. I will get in touch with you. We
okay.
can figure out a date and time, and then I'll put the word out, and then we can. I'll check with Mia about maybe putting it on a mobilized thing to sign up for, a Sign Up Genius or something like that. We'll
Okay.
figure it out. It can be very informal. The way that Molly and her husband did it, we saw it on the back patio. They put a big screen there, but I would say there were maybe 10, but they were partly people who stayed over from the postcards party. So we can just say it's limited to 6 people. First 6, first come, first serve. And if we have a number of people doing that, that allows people to talk about it afterwards. So I think that's perfectly fine. Nancy Heil has her hand up. Hi, Nancy.
Hi. I was just interested, you guys mentioned that LifeWise. I have seen a lot of signs in yards in my neighborhood, and could anybody give like a quick description of what's going on with that or what it is?
Yes, it's I want to call it a Christian nationalist group. Joel Penton is in charge of it. It is headquartered right here in Hilliard. And basically, it's taking kids out of school during the school day to give them Bible study. Unfortunately, it's particularly opposed, let's say, to LGBT community folks. They have a very rigid group of people that aren't necessarily vetted. So you've got kids that are going to this off campus in the school buses to get quote Bible study with sometimes people that are not even vetted. They don't even have background checks sometimes on these folks. They come back to the school having missed some of their school day. And first, originally, it was like, okay, we'll just take them out for lunch. Some of them are actually missing class time. They go back, and unfortunately, it's in so many schools now that the kids left behind, there aren't that many of them, and they get ostracized. And then you've got the kids coming back from LifeWise who are telling their classmates, oh, I'm sorry, you're going to go to hell.
Oh, wow.
Kids going home and crying to their parents. Now, it's the way it's set up. The kids have to have parental consent, but then they pressure their parents. Oh, well, so and so's doing it. I really want to go. And of course, as we pointed out, they get all kinds of perks. They get candy, they get incentives to go. But it's this really a problem. And recently, they I don't know how long ago this was. They had a big conference. It's all the right wing Heritage Foundation folks together, and Joel Penton's one of them. It's all tied up together, and the idea is to promote Christian nationalism. It pure and simple. That's what it is. There's a group called. It used to be called Parents Against LifeWise. I'm not sure can't remember what the name of it is now, but we had Zachary Parrish, who kind of started that group, come to visit our Zoom meeting about maybe 2 years ago, and he's been very vocal about trying to shut it down. Susan Miller, who's one of our Indivisible members and TAG members, has also been really interested in getting it shut down. Unfortunately, the state legislature changed the language. They made it so that it's not voluntary for a school district anymore to say we can allow these programs. Now every school district has to allow this RTRI, which is release time for religious education, which is a real problem because now you've got schools that the school boards might have said no before, and now they have no choice because of what the legislature did. So it's a real problem, and it's going to be a worse problem in the future because I just read an article that maybe half or more of the schools in Ohio, public schools in Ohio, have LifeWise programs. Maxine has got her hand up.
Yeah, it's the Secular Education Association, and it's a Facebook group that you can join.
Yes.
Yeah, I was at that protest in Grove City when they had the big convention.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big issue, and I don't know that they're going anywhere soon, but because it's targeting children, it's really dangerous and needs to be shut down, but it's not showing any signs. Yeah, Chris?
And I think they have no physical space to do this. They have to rent or get churches to volunteer. So you don't know where they're going. They could be going anywhere in their neighborhoods.
Right.
Plus, I've heard them soften it out a little. They're trying to teach Christian behavioral values. So they aren't necessarily doing a Bible class or religious training. Years ago in New York, they had release time, and it was for Catholic children or Jewish children. And they went and they actually had Bible study. Here they're taking them off and playing games with them and doing all kinds of things, but insisting it's to teach them how to behave in a Christian way.
And that's what the appeal is to parents. They think, oh, this is great. Patty, a real quickie one, and then I just wanted to make an announcement before we end. And then I think right now I'm going to, as soon as Patty's finished, I'm going to turn off the recording, and then just a couple of housekeeping things before we leave. Yes, Patty.
In relationship to all this, I don't know if anybody read an article that Marysville School, they had some type of I don't know, petition or something that they now have to offer. It's a Satan group, some kind of an extreme Satan group. So in response to what LifeWise is doing, the school can be open to any type of group who says, well, yeah, we're going to go in. So Marysville Schools now has some type of, I mean, it doesn't say the name Satan, but then it describes what it's doing. And that, that's kind of scary too, is that they won't vet any of these groups if they say, oh, we're a religious group too, because we just believe this. So that's a little bit scary that LifeWise is opening up a whole, can of worms. So
Thank you, Patty. Maxine, real quick, and then I'm going to shut off the recording. Go ahead.
I forget what the name of it is, but that one group that has Satan in its name, it's actually not for Satan. It's not satanic. It's actually sharing the values that we share.
Right.
Okay.
The one I'm talking about wasn't like that. I mean, it was not just sharing values. They put a few of those statements, but then if you read more about that group, I don't know, maybe we're talking about different groups, but yeah.
Okay. Also, I just wanted to mention that tomorrow I'm picking up the first petitions for the Equal Rights Amendment and for gay marriage. So I'm taking them to the Tesla takedown on Saturday.
Great. Thank you so much, Maxine. I'm going to.
And one other thing also, we in Hilliard had our first bridge protest yesterday over 270.
Great.
So
wonderful.
That went really well too.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love the way these protests are expanding, and even if they're small, they're in more and more places, and it's just fantastic. Grandview's going now, and we've got a whole bunch of new protests going. So that's wonderful. I'm going to thank Meg for coming. Don't leave yet, because we're going to have just a couple housekeeping things, but it was wonderful to have you here and to go back and forth and share resources, but kudos for what you're doing in Knox County. It's just fantastic. So thank you again for coming. I'm going to shut off the recording and then just hang in there just for a few more minutes, okay? Thanks so much.